understand financial outcomes is more dangerous to states and localities than ever before. And there's a big gap between what public leaders know about finance and what they need to know. This is straight out of governing. Finance 101, what they call fiscal illiteracy, one of the biggest problems that we're facing. And this is so interesting to us. How many of you believe this about your leadership? That there's a big gap between what they know and what they need to know to make sound fiscal policy decisions. When we think about our elected officials, and one of our partners, Kathy Novak, past president of the National League of Cities and former elected official, talks about what she's trained to believe is that the budget book, the budget itself, is the most important policy document that she has. It's supposed to embody the decision making that she's doing and managing the resources, being a good fiscal steward. But when it comes down to it, we all know what the budget is like. It's a giant 600-pound monster and it contains tons of data. How do we close this gap? This is the issue that we're talking about today. Hi, I'm Chris Fabian. I'm co-founder of the Center for Priority-Based Budgeting. And when John Johnson, the other co-founder of CPBB, and I were in this exact same situation in the county government where we worked, we were confronted by our elected officials with this same gap to close. Their ideas, what they would bring to our meetings to talk about the impacts of their decisions, presented a problem to us. We had major challenges. We had a changing dynamic economy. The variables were changing. We had a $12 million deficit one day and it turned into a $15 million deficit the next day. Why did that happen? Their understanding of the economy came from all over the place. They're smart people. They're reading the newspaper. They're picking up facts from The Economist and from the New York Times. They're business owners. And yet when it came down to it, we had no way of distilling all of this data into something that they could comprehend and understand. So we knew we needed better tools. Now, how do we move from the tools that we have? Let me show you the tool that we have. This is our budget book, right? When we want to know what's happening in the economy, the impacts of our decision, we turn to page 560 and we see what? Who knows? This is a giant book, but this is the best tool that we have. It's published once a year. It's packed with information for our budget and finance directors. You're proud of this book, and you should be. It's a great tool for you. For our elected officials managing the consequences of their decision, it's a very difficult tool to use. But how do we move from this tool to something more useful? We hear about these terms. They're thrown out all the time. We hear about open data and open government. We hear about big data. I'm sure you have all been well versed in the term transparency. What does that mean? When we talk about transparency, when we talk about open data, it's not just getting the data and making it open. We can do that with the budget book. We're talking about how do we make this alive? How does this come to life? And the tool that we had to create was very specific. We had core principles of fiscal health. We wanted to make sure that we knew the difference between ongoing reliable sources of income, our ongoing revenue streams, and our one-time sources of income and our one-time expenses. There's a difference, and yet there's a huge interrelationship between them. We wanted to alleviate our county's dependence on one-time sources, our fund balance, to plug ongoing gaps. It's not sustainable. We wanted to make sure that for any financial variable that we're talking about, our sales tax is increasing or our property tax is decreasing, that we can update this information live. Most importantly, as the conditions changed, we wanted to play out what-if scenarios. How do we do that? How do we bring that together? This is why we created the online fiscal health model. What I want to show you has truly been a game changer for us. This is the relationship between our ongoing side of the world and our one-time side of the world. And if we want to demonstrate what it looks like to use one-time dollars to plug an ongoing gap, it's at the click of a button. We can show it. But it's a what-if scenario. We can undo that decision and look at the impacts. This is live. When John and I brought this to our own elected officials, it was our Rosetta Stone, our economic modeling and forecasting tool, the ability to translate our language into the language of policy making and decision making. This is what we wanted to focus on. The Rosetta Stone has been used in local government organizations. We're talking to school districts, we're talking to special districts, we're talking to a fire district, a water and wastewater utility district. We're even talking about bringing fiscal health into churches. Fiscal health is a holy matter. But let's bring it all back. This is the gap we need to close. We need to move from financial illiteracy to financial literacy. Our perspective online fiscal health modeling is the way to do it. Data visualization, what if scenarios, the dynamic nature of our economy and shaping the way that we make policy decisions around the budget.